So, welcome. My name is Dave Allen Grady, and I'm one of the pastors here at Northbrook United Methodist Church. I'm thrilled to have Mike Johnson and Brent Richardson with us. They are two of our leaders with our ministry with Habitat for Humanity, and we're here to talk for a few minutes about this ministry that is transformational in the lives of so many. Guys, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
So, real quick, Brent and Mike, would you tell me individually, how did you get involved with Habitat? Brent?
First of all, Dave, thank you for the opportunity to address these questions. My involvement with Habitat goes back over 30 years. I was engaged in a church, a Methodist church in North Carolina. As a part of that church, they routinely had volunteer teams who worked on projects. I have an interest in the construction industry, and so I saw it as a good tie-in. So I began to volunteer through that opportunity. They do things a little different than we do here in Georgia. They take, each church gets an entire Saturday, and you have to staff an entire work group from that individual church. But it gave us a very focused opportunity, an opportunity to meet others within our church, but also to work on the construction of a home for a partner family. And so I continued that process. My wife was involved in Habitat as well. She was on the home selection committee. Her volunteer engagement grew to the point that she became a staff member, and ultimately, when she passed, she was the associate director for Habitat in Cabarrus County, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. So our family was heavily engaged with the Habitat process, and it's something that we believed in for a long period of time.
Awesome. Mike, how'd you get involved?
Well, it goes back, I think Northbrook was where I first got involved with Habitat. It was a great day of service, and that was one of the mission opportunities we had for those Saturdays, and that was kind of where it got started. And then it was probably several years where I didn't do anything with Habitat, and then the church did start sponsoring houses again and had some opportunities. But after I retired, I was looking for volunteer opportunities that I could do a little more, and Habitat seemed to be one that was available to me, that I could volunteer during the week, and on the Saturdays also, that the different organizations were coming in with volunteers to build. So that was kind of the way I got started with Habitat, and I've been doing the weekday volunteer thing now for probably 3 or 4 years. And we call it the weekday crew, and typically we're working 3 days a week, and that's a good way to get involved with Habitat.
Wow, so y'all both have just extensive knowledge and experience with Habitat for Humanity. Now, for someone who wanted to get involved, we have our first of 2 builds. We participate in the area ecumenical build with multiple different faith groups. And our first one is coming up February 20th over a series of Saturdays between February 20 and May 15. If someone wanted to get involved, 2 questions. I'll ask this one to Brent. How would they get involved?
Thanks, Dave. That's a good question. And the answer is, in the near future, this week or next week, you will have an opportunity through the midweek update to volunteer. With the pandemic, the process is going to be a little different than it's been in the past, in that if you are an interested volunteer, you will have to go through your church's link, and that link will be published in the midweek update, and you will have to execute through that link. You will go online, you will be tied into their website, and you will go through a pretty short registration process where you identify yourself, but you will have to do it individually, because you also have to commit to certain health and safety guidelines that will be in place relative to working in a pandemic. But that is the single best way to get involved, is to volunteer and support Northbrook's support of the ecumenical build, which will provide a house up in Canton, Georgia, for a deserving homeowner.
So that brings up a really great point. Habitat is doing a really great job with providing guidelines and modifications to their build process to help make sure everybody is healthy and safe during the pandemic and they can still come and volunteer. But that means we have limited capacity on any given Saturday for how many folks we put forward. Mike, even with the limited number of folks, can I just show up? I remember the old joke is that Habitat houses are never going to get blown down in a storm because they have like 3 or 4 times as many nails in them as a contracted house. But do I have to have any special skill set if I want to volunteer?
No, that's one thing that I like to tell people that kind of hesitate in volunteering for Habitat, because there's always something for somebody to do on the site. And you don't have to be a master carpenter or a roofer or anything like that to do it. And it's just the crew leaders on Saturdays are real patient with volunteers and showing you and making sure you get involved somehow. You won't be asked to do anything you're uncomfortable with, so that's not a worry. But I've seen a lot of people come out and that don't have any kind of skill set whatsoever and have had a good experience. So I would like to add to the COVID piece of that. We've been of course, with COVID, we built 2 houses in 2020. I say we, Habitat North Central Georgia did. And the working in that environment in COVID with all the safe distancing and masking, Habitat was very rigid and very on top of that. I never felt like I was at risk of being, infected with coronavirus. So if anybody has that fear, I think you can rest assured that there's a lot of precautions being made and protocols in place, just like we have on our everyday living. It's a little bit different on the work site, but still, I never once felt like I was in a bad situation when I was, working in that environment.
Thank you for that. And
Dave,
if I
I'd
can't
like to elaborate on that,
go ahead.
If I could, as a part of the information that is going to be shared through the midweek update, there will be a fairly lengthy list of specific protocols that will be in place, and you'll be asked to follow those protocols. But they are protocols that have been put in place as a part of the experience that they gain through groups like the folks who work in the weekday that Mike was referencing earlier. They've gained those experiences as a result of the 2 houses they constructed last year with those folks. And so this is a pretty well thought out process. Also, back to your comment about skill sets, as a part of the volunteer opportunities that will be presented, we chose a variety of different activities that will go on as a part of the construction of the home. And so you'll have the opportunity, if you're so inclined, to pound nails. You'll have the opportunity to paint on the inside if you're concerned about it being cold or working outside. You'll have the opportunity to do interior painting. And then lastly, as we get to the late spring in our May opportunity, you have the opportunity to work in landscaping. And so we chose a variety of different opportunities where people could assist or volunteer in an area that they felt the most comfortable.
Okay. So maybe I can't sign up for this build. We're doing a second build later in the year, probably late summer, early autumn. Is that what I understand?
Right. That's correct. It's my understanding it will begin in the August timeframe.
Okay, perfect. Now, all this volunteering, it helps us feel good in our hearts, and we're able to help a deserving family, a new homeowner. But how does that home ownership change lives?
That's a good question, Dave, and I'll take a shot at it, and I'm sure Mike has some thoughts as well. But my first thought would be to recognize and ask each individual to think back about their own experiences in their first home, and the experience that it gives you in the security of knowing that you have a comfortable place to lay your head in the evenings and to wake up to in the mornings. And so there's a real emotional component of that, and that's even more important as you look at beyond an individual and you look at a family. In this particular case, I think we're dealing with a husband and wife and 2 children. And so having the capability to secure a family is a great experience. But if you look beyond the emotional piece, you also have to look at the component, the financial component, in that these individuals are now homeowners in our state. And in this particular case, in Cherokee County, they will pay for property taxes on the home. They'll pay for utilities on the home. And so they'll be giving back to their community by being homeowners in our community. And so there's a lot of value both to the individual that is direct, and then the indirect component as well. And that's, as you look at Habitat and you look at the large number of homes that they have constructed, they start to become a fairly material component of adding homes to our community and the income associated with the property taxes from those homes. And so that's a valuable contribution to our community that goes beyond just the emotional and the value to the homeowner himself.
That's fantastic, Brent. Mike, do you want to share your thoughts on how it impacts people's lives?
What I'd like to add to that, not repeat what Brent said, but one of the I guess expectations of home ownership in the process of the house being built, the homeowner is expected to what we call sweat equity in working on the house or another Habitat house if they can't get that one in that schedule. We've had families that we're not working on a house for them, but they're going to be getting into a house later on, and they start building their sweat equity on another bill so they don't have to try to get it all in a real short period of time. And they can invite people, other family members, friends of theirs to come out and volunteer for that also. And that's another neat thing about that, is that you do get to meet the families a lot of times on those Saturdays that the teams are there working. And if you go enough, you get a kind of relationship with them and know them. And like Brent said, just the feeling they have with getting their first home in a lot of cases, and knowing their background and where they came from, this is a huge thing in their life.
That's something I always appreciated about Habitat, is the expectation that the family that is going to be owning that home has also helped pound in nails. It's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Go ahead, Brent.
It's consistent with the Habitat motto. It's not a hand out, it's a hand up. And if you stop and think about that, that's a very important concept, in that each of these partner families have contributed not only to their own home, but to other homes or Habitat partner families. And so they have a direct stake in the game. They have contributed to the physical construction and to the value that it brings to the community and to them as individuals. So there's just a lot of value streams that come from supporting these types of things. Final point I would make is that Habitat doesn't just drop people in a new home. It's a fairly elongated process. And as a part of that process, there's a lot of education. There's education on family budgeting. There's education on homeowner maintenance and those components. So it's trying to equip people to not only have a new home, which changes their lives, but to be successful in that environment. And so it's not just a fact that you have the security of having 4 walls and a roof over your head, but that you have an investment in the stake of your family. So it's truly a life-changing experience for those partner families that go through the process.
That is truly transformational. Gentlemen, thank you both for your leadership in this ministry that impacts the lives of so many folks. And for the congregation, please be on the lookout in the midweek update. Be on the lookout and the various other email resources on our website and on social media. We will have the link to sign up just as soon as we get it from Habitat. Gentlemen, I pray you'll have a really great day. And again, thank you.